Sorry about that, it's back in focus. I hadn't noticed it going out of focus. Just say, that is quite heavy now with the brass components I've removed. Fastened on with screws, all fastened on with screws. The saddle tank, it's not a plastic thing, it's you can see where I've been scratching inside, a brass fabrication with representation of rivets around the edge there. So really quite nicely made compared to some other models of this price, and I believe that these are blind, whatever they are, set screw things into the boiler, so I don't think there's a hole through there. I think they're blind. That's what held the saddle tank on. The only thing is that the bell seems to be soldered in. So that seems to be soldered on, and I was wanting to take the bell off for now, but that's staying where it is. Right, so good construction. Now what I've done is I've taken a bit of card. It was the card that a book came in, so it was just an envelope, as it were, from Amazon. Just brown card, that was it. Call it cornflake packet card. It's probably about the same. And what I've done is, if I just turn the light to there, cut and shaped it. I've reinforced it a little with those coffee stirrers, bit of hot melt glue on the inside, just to quickly knock up a shape as a template to see how things look, and a couple of pieces of card to use as the running boards or whatever it is on it. So if I just put that in place on there, that represents a running board on one side, and I can put the cab on like that, and that represents something that might be a cab on it. So there I have a slightly different looking locomotive. I'm going to mix this with a couple of still shots so you can see it. So let's just go through it briefly. Some of the fancy work taken off the smoke box door, and we can put the locking mechanism on there. That looks like a little clock hands. Chimney to go on there. And this is the question, I'll ask it again. Guys, can you tell me, am I going to be safe enough chopping that off there, drilling the hole out for the chimney, and then either reattaching or sorting out that steam exhaust pipe? Any other thoughts? It's got the water in the saddle tank, so just going out of focus again. I'm going to pause the video and get back into focus. Yeah, that looks like it's in focus. But what about coal? Coal could either be in a bunker at the back, if you put it back on the cab, or in quite a few instances on these things, there was a little coal bunker in front or just inside the cab area. Now, if I put a servo in there, that could be a representation of a coal bunker, and where that gas tank is could be some sort of representation of a side coal bunker on there for the coal, who knows. The other thing is, if I put the cab back here, well, it won't go on yet, but set the cab a little bit further back, I'll trim it so it will go on. Right, that's with the cab set a little bit further back. What you've got is the opportunity to put this over boiler bunker onto it, which appeared on some locomotives. I'm not quite sure what make they were. And then we've got to decide about having either a steam dome or sandbox on here to make it look something like. Apologies for the shape of the cab, how it is, but there we go. A little bit of work would be required, but that's a mock-up to give us some idea of what the locomotive might look like if it was converted from something which was basically an Alaskan narrow gauge locomotive running in Alaska to something which might run on British metals, or whatever people call it, in the UK as a narrow gauge locomotive over here with the typical circular spectacle plates. We can open that up, and the side entry door, there might well be a back onto the locomotive. That one might provide you with a little bit more room behind the back head for a fireman and driver. Right, I'm going to post that, hopefully get some comments. A couple of little videos I've put together. I think I'm going to have to put them on as separate videos. I don't know how you're going to decide which video you watch, because they're all covering different things, and I'm interested in comments about, is it all going to be worth it, because there's quite a bit of brass work required if I maintain the sort of brass quality of this in terms of the locomotive. So there we go. Let's see what people come up with in terms of suggestions, and even down to, look, I can take that off, that's it without the running plate, and put the running plate on. The other thing, of course, would be that if you've got a running plate on there, you might well have a handrail along there, and you might well have a handrail over the smokebox door, or on a couple of locomotives I've seen it over the front of the smokebox, across the front of the boiler, just for people to grab hold of if they're working on the locomotive.